And I thought my jokes were bad.
Give me one reason why I shouldn't have my boy here pull your head off.
How about a magic trick? I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. It's gone. Oh, and by the way, the suit, it wasn't cheap. You ought to know, you bought it.
Shit. I want to hear proposition.
Let's wind the clocks back a year. These cops and lawyers wouldn't dare cross any of you. I mean, what happened? Your balls drop off? You see, a guy like me...
Freak.
Damn right. A guy like me. Look, listen. I know why you choose to have your little group therapy sessions in broad daylight. I know why you're afraid to go out at night. The Batman.
Hey everybody, this is Jordan from Smallville, Batcat Shipper. Finally you got it right.
Hey, it only took one episode to get it right, so we're on a roll.
Well, it doesn't help that you wrote it down for me, Tim.
Dane, you're giving the secrets away.
I can't do that. This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, and you can help support the Batman Universe by heading to patreon.com/the Batman Universe. Now, before we get to anything, Tim, before we get to, the Heath Ledger, or even our Dark Knight Rises minute by minute commentary, I have to ask you, What do you think about the Hall of Fame candidates this year, inductees this year?
Yeah, Hall of Fame week. I always love this part of the off season when we find out who's going into the Hall of Fame. More so now that it's players getting in who I grew up watching, which makes it, have more investment in it. But yeah, I think overall it was good to have, a big class of 4 get voted in. We got Chipper Jones, first ballot, Vladimir Guerrero, who should have went in last year, first ballot, but for some reason, some voters wanted to keep him off their ballot.
Why?
And then I know it was tough. Like he was at 70, like a little over 70%, not quite 75 last year. Yeah. You need 75% to get in. And this year he had like over 90%. So like he jumped 20%. Like what changed in these voters' minds? I like how all the baseball shows are making jokes and saying, "Oh, like was this season even better in 2017?" So, obviously he's been retired, but like, why that big of a jump? It would take something like one more season to have him make that big of a jump. So, yeah, it was dumb why he didn't get it last year because he deserved to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, I think it shouldn't be 75%. I think it should be like 60. 65 maybe, because I think 75 is a little too much.
At the same time too, I do like that it is kind of hard to get in.
Yeah,
the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good. So I do like it. You have to reach a certain level in order to get that honor. So yeah, so Chipper Jones, Guerrero, Trevor Hoffman, and Jim Tomey. The only one I don't know. He has the good numbers for it, but I don't know if he really is a Hall of Famer. Is Trevor Hoffman
really?
The Padres closer, just because every every big game, like a postseason game, he always blew the save. I mean, he didn't have a lot of opportunities, but when he did get those opportunities, he didn't deliver. 98 with the Yankees, they gave him a big home run to Scott Brocious. Then in 2007, when they were playing the Rockies, like a one-off playoff game to get into the playoffs, he blew the lead in that game, which cost the Padres. Then in the All-Star game in 2003, which was the first year the All-Star game decided home field advantage, and the National League had the lead, and Trevor Hoffman blew that. And so every time there was a big moment, he never came through. But he had a long career, a very good career, the first to 600 saves and all that. So I understand why he got in, but his postseason record, I don't know, didn't justify it for me anyway. But
yeah,
but it's still a great class getting in, though.
Yeah, and it's hard for like relief pitchers, closers, even DHs.
Exactly.
Jim Tomey to get in.
He played a lot of first base too, so he wasn't. I think DH for the latter part of his career, but he played a lot of field. But Edgar Martinez of the Seattle Mariners, I was hoping he'd get in, but he made a big jump to 70% this year, and next year is his last year on the ballot, so I'm pretty confident he'll get in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, you can't really look at the numbers for relief pitchers or DHs. I think you have to look at like the big picture. You know, the longevity of their career. You know, where they played.
The big moments too, like I was saying with Hoffman, like the big playoff moments would they deliver.
Oh
there.
yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, yeah, it's like I said. I think it's hard for closers, relief pitchers, DHs. To get into the Hall of Fame.
Well, next year is going to be a big one because Mariano Rivera is on the ballot, and it's not a question of whether he gets in because it's a no-brainer. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. The question is, will he set a new record for the most votes getting it? I think Ken Griffey Jr. has it now with 98%.
Yeah.
And like, could Mariano be the first unanimous player to get the votes? I doubt it. There'll be someone who, won't vote for him for whatever reason, which is insane. But I hope he gets over 98 ahead of Griffey or 99%. Just have him set that new record.
Yeah, and you know what kind of irritates me? Every year that we have the Hall of Fame voting, the Hall of Fame inductees, the Hall of Fame talk comes around. We always have to bring up Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds. We always have to bring them up. Like every single sports site has to bring up the argument, that maybe they should be in the Hall of Fame.
I know. Until they're off the ballot, which is just like 3 or 4 more years, it's going to come up every single time.
It's so irritating. It's like, no, I mean, they took steroids. I'm sorry. I mean, allegedly took steroids.
No, they took. It's pretty obvious, especially with Bonds. Yeah, I was happy though because there was projecting wise that they would make another big jump this year because last year they were like the low 50s.
Yeah.
And they were projecting to maybe reach 60s. Like, oh man, if they reach that high, they're going to get in eventually. But they didn't make a significant jump at all. Like, they're now in like the mid 50s. Like, they just jumped up very like micro percentage points. So I was happy about that because I was I don't want them getting in at all.
Well, maybe the baseball writers are kind of like you and me, where it's like, I'm just so tired of this argument already. It's we're not even gonna vote for them this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed it's this high, but I mean, as long as they don't get in, I'll be happy.
What about? I think you brought this up earlier. Edgar Martinez.
Yeah, like I said, he's
how close is he again?
That's 70%. He got up to 70 this year. So anyone who's usually that high, they usually get in the next year.
Yeah, right.
And I think because it's his last year on the ballot, like voters will realize that. So we better get him in.
Yeah, and he deserves it too, right?
Yeah. It's going to be funny that he gets in with Rivera, because I think he was one of the few players who owned Rivera. He had like really good numbers against them. So it'd be funny if the greatest closer of all time gets in, but the one player who had his number gets in with him. That should be pretty fun.
But yeah, anyway, congratulations to all of the new Hall of Fame baseball Hall of Famers. But now we can get to our Dark Knight Rises minute-by-minute commentary. Minute by minute. I realized a lot of people are doing this now. Or at least there's a podcast, right?
I've noticed that too, yeah.
And they're doing it for a number of movies, right?
I know yeah. I know it's not just Batman. There is a Batman one. I think there's some Star Wars ones too. But yeah, we're trendsetters, Dane. Look what we did.
I guess so. So yeah, for this episode, we're going from minute 97 to 98. We're almost at 100 minutes, Tim.
I know, we're getting closer. Closer and closer.
So grab your HD DVD, grab your Blu-ray, grab your DVD, grab your VHS copy. It's all important VHS copy. Grab your projector, grab your laser disc, grab your Netflix physical media subscription, and grab your GameFly subscription. And the most important one, Tim, grab your Blockbuster rental.
Cannot forget that. Yes.
Yeah. And just cue it up to the 97th minute, and I'm going to give the countdown. So, Tim, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, hit play.
And we're in the middle of Bane's speech about Harvey Dent. Now, I think I said in the last episode, I have some things to say about this, but this is the one time in the film when I first saw it, and it was where Bane's voice, where it felt a little too over the top, and
It's high
kind of got
pitched.
to.
High pitched. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's trying to make he's trying to yell, but he can't yell, so he has to just go higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when he's about to read Gordon's note right here.
Yeah.
And there's the apartment that we talked about. Could we get a good look to see who it is?
Yeah, whose apartment is that?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Blake is kind of walking around.
Yeah.
like he knows where he's going, so maybe it is his.
I don't know, just how you afford an apartment like that. Maybe rent is cheap in Gotham.
Maybe with all the crime there, maybe it's easier to get a place. And plus, with the promotion he got recently in the film to a detective, so maybe he was getting able to afford it.
Yeah, but it hasn't been 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe he jumped on it right away.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember 6 months passed during the course of the movie. So maybe this is kind of in the middle of those 6 months where he got a new apartment.
So yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah, that was a productive minute commentary, I would say.
I know. I mean, looking at Blake's apartment and criticizing Bane's high voice, or yelling voice. But yeah, let's keep it on the movie front. And why don't you tell everybody about our feature topic, Tim?
Yeah, so this past Monday, it was hard to believe 10 years ago was the tragic passing of Heath Ledger. I mean, yeah, like I said, 10 years has passed. I mean, this is going to be a tribute episode to Heath Ledger and his iconic, legendary performance of the Joker. To honor what he did with that role is how legendary it has become. So, it was such a sad day when that happened. I remember exactly where I was and how I felt when that happened. And I was at work. It was like during lunchtime, and I was looking online like I usually do during that time. And I don't think I was even at a Batman site or saw anything yet, but a coworker said, like, well, what, do you guys hear? Like, Heath Ledger died. I'm like, what? Like, no. Like, are you serious? So then I, went to various Batman sites to confirm it and other news outlets, and there it was. And it's just such a sad, empty feeling that I had that day because, I mean, of course, first and foremost, dying so young and leaving behind, his family and, a young daughter at that time. So just that alone, makes you sad for, his family going to have to go through that. And then just, taking it from, just as someone that I'm sure all fans felt this way, looking forward to the movie. And at this point, there was such a buzz about his performance early on at this, like it happened in January, obviously. And the filming was done. There was reports coming on about how, this could be something special. And knowing that he passed away before he had a chance for the movie to come out, everyone to enjoy his performance, and for him to see how everyone reacted to his iconic performance, it was sad that he was going to have to get to experience that, and just had this dark cloud over, the lead up to the movie and even parts of seeing the movie for the first time. So yeah, it was just, such a sad, empty, strange time during that period once we first found out about Heath Ledger passing away and then leading up to the eventual movie's release. But we don't want this to be, a negative or a down, just down topic discussion, just focusing on his death. This is going to be a tribute discussion where we talk about, what we loved about his performance and the build up to him being cast and the first look at the Joker. But yeah, so we want to keep things a little upbeat here to honor Heath Ledger as an actor in this legendary performance. But before we get into that, Dane, do you remember like where you were and how you first found out about when he passed away?
Yeah, like you, I was at work, and then somebody said, "Oh, Heath Ledger died," and I was like, "Wait, what?" Because you don't really expect that, because he, like you said, he was young, and yeah, you just don't expect it. So it was, yeah, really surprising to me.
Yeah, and just this is all superficial stuff, of course. Once like later on, as the movie is getting closer, but you just can't help but start to wonder what does it mean for the movie and going forward, for the story of what Christopher Nolan had planned, and just was everything that Christopher Nolan wanted from his performance in there. And thankfully, as Christopher Nolan did say early on, Heath Ledger completed all his work on it. There's not going to be anything that's not going to be there or removed. So, all the unimportant stuff that us as fans, would wonder later on, of course, like you don't think about that right away when you first heard the news. It's just kind of as time goes on and the movie gets closer, you just can't help but wonder about that stuff. But so let's talk about, let's celebrate his great performance as the Joker here and pay tribute to him. And first thing I want to talk about is, our reaction when we first found out he was cast, because I remember this coming out of the blue during, the announcement, which I believe was, the time frame's gonna be a little fuzzy, whether it's late 2006, early 2007. I can't remember, but this is going to be, as I'm thinking about it, kind of, since we weren't podcasting by the time, the lead up to The Dark Knight and when the movie came out, we didn't really get to talk about this stuff. So this is going to be kind of fun to talk about our experiences as fans at the time, learning the news as it broke about The Dark Knight and Heath Ledger. So this is going to be interesting to hear your reactions, Dan, because we haven't really talked about it too much. We've, over the course of the episodes, we talked about the movie and his Joker performance here and there, but the actual build up and lead up to it is something we haven't really touched on. So it should be interesting to hear your reactions, and I'm sure you hear mine. But I just remember the first time I heard his name be announced that he was cast, I was thinking, wow, like first I was like, wait, who is he? The name did not sound familiar to me because I didn't really see any of his movies. And then I found out, oh, Heath Ledger, he's from A Knight's Tale. Like, I think that was the only movie I saw him in. And then, of course, I saw the other movies he was known for. Like, okay, so I know who he is, but wasn't too familiar with the name even back then. But this was in the point of, from my fandom, where I will admit to being a little ignorant, where when I first heard it, I was like, oh, man, I really can't see that. I mean, he doesn't seem like the Joker in his other movies that he's been in. Like I said, I only saw A Knight's Tale, but seeing the other type of movies that he has been in, I was like, oh, I can't really see him pulling off the Joker. And this isn't a type of, whatever they're going for with this Joker, I don't think it's going to be one that I had in mind or I hoped for when we knew he was going to be the villain in The Dark Knight. And, there was rumors of other actors. I think the big one, at least from who I wanted to see, that I thought would be a good actor for the Joker would be Crispin Glover. I know he was the big rumored name out there. So at first I was like, a little bummed he didn't get the part. But this is one of those things where I'm thankful, looking back on it now, this was the casting that made me not judge any other casting from here on out, because boy, was I proven dead wrong after I saw the movie. So this is, if anything, got to be thankful for Heath Ledger for proving that, just because you don't necessarily can see the performance in your head by an actor being cast and can't see him do that, you got to wait till you actually see the movie, because they can totally surprise you and just knock you off your feet with a fantastic performance like Heath Ledger did with the Joker. So first time I heard the announcement, I was kind of lukewarm on it. I'll probably just say disappointed because I just couldn't see him in the role, but I was thankfully glad to be proven wrong on that. So, and as I said before, ever since that, I'll never judge a casting announcement until I actually see it. I mean, going back to Ben Affleck being cast as Batman and all the criticism that got, Gal Gadot with the criticism she's gotten, and what we talked about on the podcast, I'll wait till I see more of their performance, because I was proven wrong by Heath Ledger. So this is where all that started, and my attitude toward casting announcements was with Heath Ledger being cast as the Joker. So how about you, Dane? What was your first reaction when you found out that he was going to be the Joker?
For me, it was kind of like, okay. I mean, I guess I know, like you said, Crispin Glover. I can't really remember who else was.
Yeah, I know there's a few names out there, but Crispin Glover was the main one who I wanted, and was out there the most that I can remember. Yeah,
and like to me, it was just like, I mean, I guess, but then when you start to think about it, it's more like in like the '89 movie, there's kind of like a disconnect because I think it was because Jack Nicholson was an older guy, and it didn't really have that connection. So like the more I thought about it, the more it was like, oh, so they're gonna make they're not gonna make it like the '89 movie, where it's kind of an older actor portraying the Joker. They're going with a younger actor. So I guess he kind of has that for him, and maybe this is going to be a little more different. Because up until that point, I thought they were just going to do like what Jack Nicholson did in the '89 movie, where he was just going to be like this gangster, and he was going to be like, like an experienced criminal, rather than what they did in The Dark Knight. So for me, I know it's kind of like, it doesn't really make sense, but like that was kind of my thinking when he was cast, or like, okay, so they're gonna go younger with this. I thought they were gonna like get an experienced older actor to do it, but yeah, just kind of lukewarm to it, kind of surprised,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I gotta say, kind of like once he was cast in the lead up to the movie, and kind of the more we heard about it, some rumblings, rumors, and some images that came out, it was a bumpy ride for me, hard to believe, about getting hyped up for The Dark Knight. Of course, I was excited for it as a sequel to Batman Begins that I absolutely loved, but I mean, there was high expectations for this with, the now classic ending to Batman Begins, where Gordon ends Batman the Joker card, setting up for, it was going to be a Batman Joker showdown, and waiting 3 years to see that. There was a lot of anticipation and hype for it. So
yeah, and I say one more thing?
No, go for it.
Maybe I'm just looking back on this like nostalgically or whatever. I don't know if that's a word, but this was a time before. I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way, but this was a time before where people were just simply fans of what they loved. It wasn't, like, oh, how it is today with the Last Jedi or the Force Awakens, where people are constantly criticizing every single like aspect of it.
Or even the current superhero movies now, for mainly DC, but even sometimes Marvel. Yeah, there's just a lot of this nitpicking, criticizing for every single thing.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
And like I think this. I mean, like I said, maybe just nostalgic for that period or that time. But like, I think this was a time where fans were just fans of their fandom. It wasn't constant criticism. How does Rey know how to use a lightsaber? How does she know how to use a stick? How does she know how to fight? How does Rey know how to use the Force? How does Rey know how to fly the Millennium Falcon? Every single thing. I think this was more of a time where, at least for me, where it was just, this is kind of interesting.
It's funny you say that, because like I said, this was kind of a bumpy ride for me in the lead up to The Dark Knight. I would say I learned a lot for an anticipation from a movie with The Dark Knight, because I was a lot more nitpicky and concerned about this movie, in particular the Joker, going into it, than I've had been for probably almost any movie. Got to be honest, a lot of the stuff that was getting revealed, I was not a big fan of.
Really?
That first off, we were hearing like rumors, rumblings about how the Joker is not going to have, he's not going to be all white, he's not going to be falling into the chemical, it's just going to be makeup. And it's like, oh man, they're doing that. Like, oh, I don't know. And then the whole thing about him getting his scars to make the smile. And I remember reading a rumor, it didn't happen in the movie, but it was like his first encounter with Batman, it was going to be like, do a batarang, like, and hit his mouth, and it caused the scars to, make the smile. That didn't happen. I'm kind of glad it didn't. It made for a much better movie where you don't know how he got his scars, and he tells those different stories, which is amazing. But just the idea of him having those scars, not being full white, it being makeup, I was like, oh man, I don't know. I don't like this. Does not sound like the Joker I want to see. And I remember too, there was even rumors about him not being like fully white, but kind of just like a lighter skin tone to kind of have that more realistic feel, which everyone was thinking Nolan was going to go with, and he was known for.
Yeah.
So that concerned me as well. And then when we got that first image of the Joker, do you remember which one it was? Like it was all part of that viral marketing.
Was it the one where Joker is behind the stained or the frosted glass?
No, it was. You know what? See, I don't think so. I think that might have been the second one, but there was the second one, but that was one of the early ones. I know which one you're talking about. But the first one was where it's that big close-up shot of his face, and you don't even see his hair. It's just black background. You just see the close-up of his face.
Really?
And when
that was the first one. The one on the disc.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you got like I think it was the DVD, the 2-disc DVD.
Yeah, I think the one they use on like the Ultimate Edition one, like has all the villains on the cover.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one, and when I saw it, I was like, it took me back. I'm like, ooh, that's the Joker. Like that's where we're gonna get. I mean, the makeup's all like smeared up, the red, like lipstick all smeared on his face and the scar. Like I was not a fan of it. Like, oh man, I better start preparing myself for being disappointed with what they're gonna do with the Joker. And yeah, so then even some leaked pictures came out, and like you said, there was that one that officially came out. It was kind of behind that glass, and then more viral marketing images came out. And part of me was like, okay, it looks better when you see it in context, like a full image of him. He has the green hair. Yeah. I still wasn't sold on the makeup just yet. Seeing, his natural skin tones bugged me a little bit at first, but I was feeling a little better about it because he was displaying more qualities of the Joker that I was familiar with and liked seeing and glad they were taking. But it wasn't until we got an image of the Joker, and I don't remember where it came from, if it was from a magazine or, officially released online, but it was the one where it's like you could see his full suit, full face, everything. It's just where he's standing there. I'm not even sure what scene it is. It could be, not sure if he's like outside when he's about to, confront Batman on the Bat-Pod, or is that Harvey Dent's fundraiser? But he's just standing there. He's got his arms kind of open, and he doesn't have a knife or weapon or anything, but he's kind of hunched a little bit, and he's just staring down at someone. And when I saw that image, okay, that looks like the Joker I was hoping for, because the suit was purple, his face where he had the makeup on, and you tell it was definitely white, and you couldn't see any of his skin tone. So that when I saw that image, I was like, okay, this could be a Joker visually anyway, where I could be down with. But it wasn't until we got that very first, not the very first teaser where it's just, his voiceover and the Batman logo, but we got the very first trailer.
Because that was it for me. I still think that's one of the best teaser trailers.
Yeah.
Even though it's nothing but the Batman's signal or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for me, it was the teaser trailer. Just as the way he made his voice and the laugh at the end. Mm-hmm. So like I was like, oh, okay. Like I'm pretty sure Heath Ledger has got this. Has got it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one. I didn't hate it or anything. It wasn't enough for me to go on. Like he had some good dialogue there, and hearing his laugh sounded good, but other than that, it wasn't enough for me to be completely sold on it. But it was that first regular trailer where, he does that monologue at the beginning, taking dialogue from the interrogation room. But when we got our first live action, like footage of him, like seeing it for the first time of him just sitting in the interrogation room where, he's looking at that cop, and, the sequence of how the trailer was edited was different from the film, but the dialogue where he says in the trailer, "Evening, Commissioner," and you just see that look on his face sitting down there like, oh man, this is that one shot pretty much sold me on it completely. And everything else we got in the trailer just cemented this could be something special. And again, like I said earlier, the buzz that was going around during this time about, Gary Oldman was saying things, and just certain, like the word of mouth on like websites and even from studios saying how we could be in for something special. I saw it in that trailer, which really turned me around and got me even more excited for it. So, like I said, it was a bumpy ride in the lead up to we actually got to see, for me anyway, seeing the trailer or whatnot. But I eventually came around and just realizing how, foolishly it was to worry about that, and even more so when we actually saw the film. But before I get to that, what was your experience like that, Dane? Was it a little more positive than my experience as the more information and pictures were coming out about Heath Ledger's Joker?
Yeah, and I think I think I have to admit that I was still on the high of Batman Begins and how refreshing that was. Not just, for Batman, but for like superheroes in general.
Sure.
Superhero films in general. And yeah, I think I was just still on that, like, okay, this filmmaker, Christopher Nolan, is going to be doing something different, because there, up to that point there hadn't really been a superhero movie like that, where it told like a different kind of movie. It wasn't a superhero movie. It wasn't like the Spider-Man movies where it's all color and it's all vibrant, and it's tells the story of Peter Parker. This is something way, way, way different, and he's really going to take his time to do something different, and yeah, I think I was just still on that high, and like every single trailer and image and thing that interview that we got, it was just like, okay, I'm totally sold on this, and I'm eating it up.
Yeah, so glad yours was a more happier experience than mine was, instead of me worrying and can't take it off my fanboy glasses and not getting what I wanted. Like I said, this is an important movie for a lot of reasons for me. It helped me shed away that type of thinking in the lead up to movies and not be so quickly to judge things. And it's okay for things to be different than what you're used to, because in certain things it could be better than what you're expecting. And that was the case with Heath Ledger's Joker in a lot of ways. So yeah, so by the time we got into 2018 because it's the 10-year anniversary, but we got to 2008 and we're getting closer to the movie, I was hyped up and where I wanted to be about being super excited for it. The more footage we saw and other trailers that came out, it just looked amazing. And so finally got to the theater and saw the whole movie. And boy, this is where I really felt stupid for doubting or having worry after I saw and see the complete performance by Heath Ledger of Joker. And boy, talking about living up to the hype, the buzz, and even I will say this is the Dark Knight and Heath Ledger's Joker performance might be one of the greatest payoffs in movie history, from that great tease I mentioned earlier in Batman Begins, how much hype that created and excitement for a Batman Joker story in the sequel. And to have the Dark Knight and Heath Ledger's Joker performance probably surpass expectations for what that could be. That's got to be one of the biggest payoffs ever for a setup in a movie series. So, man, yeah, just every moment he was on screen, you just wanted more. And this is one of the things where I don't want it to sound like whenever we didn't get Heath Ledger's Joker on screen, I wasn't invested in the rest of the movie, or I wasn't looking at or thinking to myself, oh, come on, when are we going to get more Joker? Because the rest of the movie was pretty engaging and awesome in its own right. But when we got the Joker stuff, it just took it to another level. And man, there's a lot. Every scene he was in is just amazing. You cannot, like, if you're watching a movie and maybe you're pressed for time, you're going to skip forward to certain moments here or there. You will not forward or skip any scene with the Joker in this movie. It's all just phenomenal, and for different ways too, depending on the scene in the moment. But I just remember sitting in that theater thinking, man, I'm seeing something special here with his performance. And even before, there was, like I said, there was a buzz and then even Oscar buzz going around, and I had that feeling too as I was watching it. And after it was over, just thinking, man, he has to win every award for this performance. It's just so deserving. And that feeling I got watching it is what I was hoping to have as a Batman fan, and one that it was so rare. Like you said, Batman Begins ushered this new great era of Batman movies, a refreshing take on the character and getting a lot right. And even more, I think they did that even more so with The Dark Knight. That feeling of seeing why I love the Joker and his relationship to Batman on screen is being, or not even on screen, but just in general, why I love that dynamic so much. It's being shown to me on screen, and now everyone else can see, like the mainstream audience can see why this character of the Joker is the greatest villain of all time, is so special, why him and Batman are the perfect enemies for each other. It just, they nailed all that, and Heath Ledger's performance, really sold it. So, such a great feeling after the movie when it was over, just on such a high of what we got. And at the same time, too, was certain points in the movie we just couldn't help but feel sad that, we're seeing this great performance by a great actor for one of the greatest fictional characters ever, that he's not here right now. And that, it's had a little somber effect on certain scenes. I mean, I said this before, the scene at the very end where Joker tells Batman, we're destined to do this forever. It's just, you can't help but take a gut punch right there, knowing that that's no longer possible. So as excited as I was after seeing the movie, it was a little, somberness to it as well, knowing that, Heath Ledger is no longer with us. And, as I said before, can't receive his well-deserved accolades that he's getting for this role, as he's so well-deserved. So it was kind of a little bittersweet type moment after the first viewing. But yeah, I'm sure your experience is going to be pretty similar to mine, Dane, as far as your takeaway from Heath Ledger's performance when you saw the final movie.
Yeah, for me, it was more, I don't know, like almost scary, because you didn't really know what he was going to do next. Mm-hmm. I think it's only like 20 minutes into the movie, and he, first we have the whole, mob bank scene, and, how's he going to get away? How's he going to, get all the money? And he drives a school bus into the into the bank, and he somehow timed it where he would pull in, right into a convoy of school buses, buses, and it's just sort of that unpredictability, and the next scene he's in is, he's talking to all the mob guys, right, and he kills the guy with the pencil, and to me, I know we're going to get to this later, but to me, that's one of the best scenes, because he kind of goes on this monologue. He doesn't seem threatening at all to these guys. And then he kills a guy with a pencil, and it's just sort of that surprising, moment. It's and every time he was on scene, it's like, okay, what's he going to do? And, to me, it kind of all boils, or it kind of all, goes towards that scene, that interrogation scene, where he kind of goes face to face with Batman, and then he tricks him in the end, where he sends Batman after Harvey Dent rather than Rachel. And to me, that's the peak of the movie, and everything after that is, the sort of, I guess, results of that moment. And it's, for me, I think what makes Heath Ledger's performance so great, or what made it so great, the first time I saw it, was that it was written in a way where you didn't know what he was gonna do next, and he could have done anything. He could have just walked out of that meeting, but he decided to kill a guy with a pencil. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with I forget the guy's name. The when they're playing pool, and
Gamble.
Yeah, Gamble. Yeah. And what's he gonna do at the end of that scene? He's gonna have the two guys fight each other to take a spot in his gang.
The half-broken pool stick.
Yeah. It's so unpredictable. So for me, that's what really kind of wowed me. It's just, you didn't really know what he was doing. He was going to do, and
totally.
And even if you did, it was something completely different.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the character was honestly well written to, for Heath Ledger to have a great performance. But even the stuff like, that's not just what he's saying, it's what he's doing too. His mannerisms help make this performance of the Joker so great. And there's certain things like we know he did, off the cup where it wasn't in the script, where, it was an improv type thing. Where I believe when one of the famous ones that I always loved is when he's in prison and the mayor makes Gordon a commissioner and everyone's clapping, and then you see the Joker clapping in the cell. I mean, that's so perfect and so Joker. I believe that's one where Heath Ledger just did right on the spot there, where he decided to add that in, and it's just perfect. And little things like where he's Gordon's interrogating him first, and he's asking him where's Dan. He goes, me? Like, I've been here. And he just lifts his hands up, showing that he's handcuffed, and just those mannerisms, the way he walked, how he delivered his lines, just helped make it so unique and so special and just so Joker. That's what we wanted. Yeah. So yeah, just the little ticks that he had, the way he kind of smacked his lips when he talked, and the way he would tell. I mentioned or hinted a little bit earlier, but the way he told the stories of how he got his scars, once to Gamble and then one to Rachel. Just the way Heath Ledger delivers those stories, like you almost, the Joker's evil, but you buy into his story and almost feel sorry for him a little bit. The way he says it, the one that sticks out to me is when he's telling Rachel about his wife, and he tells him, to make her happy, he did that to himself. He just says, she can't even stand the sight of me. Like, you really feel bad for her in that spot of he tried to do this thing for his wife to make her feel better, and she hates him for it and all that. So just brilliant acting and by Heath Ledger there to, go off a fantastic script for the Joker. So all together making it for, such amazing scenes and performance in general. And, like I said before, he well-deservedly won an Oscar for this. I think almost every award that had a Best Supporting Actor nomination in there, which is well-deserved. And, I'll never, take it for granted how cool it is that we had a Best Actor winner portraying, a comic book character like the Joker. To me, there's just something still really cool and special about that the Joker as a character has got an Academy Award. But, Heath Ledger has it, but obviously he won the award. But the fact that it was for the Joker, because it just, to me, it just validates. I mean, it's not that I was looking for validation or anything, but it's just great to see where a character that we all grew up loving so much, we know is special. We know is a unique, complex, intriguing character that we've enjoyed reading about in comics and seeing in TV shows in the '89 movie for years and generations. And now the reasons why we all knew he was a great character is being recognized by, the highest honor in film. And it's all thanks to Heath Ledger and what he did for the character, making everyone see why the character of the Joker is so special. So to me, I'll never lose sight of how cool and special that is for, both Heath Ledger for what an outstanding job he did for bringing the Joker to life, that, in the best way possible, and that everyone was able to recognize. So I'll always love that aspect of it. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. Hopefully, because, we just had the Oscar nominations come out this week, and I was a little disappointed that.
Oh no, Tim! Don't bring this up now.
It ties in with it because Dark Knight set the precedent where that didn't get nominated for Best Picture, so they added more categories, and Heath Ledger won Best Actor, obviously, and hopefully that would pave the way for more. And I just thought this year's we've had some good candidates for more movies to be in the vein of Heath Ledger's Joker performance in The Dark Knight, like movies like Logan and Wonder Woman even. So the fact that those didn't get recognized, I mean, Logan got a Best Screenplay adaptation, which is awesome. But
what are you talking about? Wonder Woman got 0.
I know, which is...
They had 0, Tim.
Yeah, that's another tangent we can go on. But to me, I think if you have a cultural impact on a film has a cultural impact like Wonder Woman did for this year, I think it should be recognized for a Best Picture nomination. Even we know it's probably not going to win, but just to be recognized that it was a great movie, a big hit, and like I said, a cultural almost phenomenon that had happened, which is rare when that happens for a year with movies, and I felt it's a disappointment that it didn't get recognized at that. So
yeah, not
The Dark Knight is
not even for the smaller ones like costume design or cinematography or
exactly
writing or whatever, and Gal Gadot not getting nominated for Best Actress.
Patty Jenkins for Best Director. I really thought she might have gotten it.
You know, best. Didn't she also write it?
Did she have a story credit? I don't think she did.
Oh,
but
she
I could
just
be
has a directing credit.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I'll have to double check.
Why?
So, yeah, that's why I'm
no...
disappointed where Dark Knight is still, the high point for comic book movies in those in those big categories. But
speaking of which, I saw the Blade Runner 2049.
Mm-hmm.
It should have been nominated for Best Picture.
I've heard that from other people. I haven't seen it, but
and I will say, Tim, I hate to tell you, Tim, but it had the better Harrison Ford appearance.
Really? Yeah. I don't know about that, but
it had the better Harrison Ford appearance.
Well, see, I haven't seen it, so I can't even argue. So
yeah,
I guess we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and I hate to break your heart again, Tim, but
why is that?
Blade Runner 2049 was the best movie last year that I saw.
Wow. So even though my initial disappointment with The Last Jedi when we did our podcast review, and I've come full 180 on that and loving it now, that still makes me upset that you have another movie higher than The Last Jedi. So.
Well, I think, Tim, that this is the end of the podcast.
Good night, everybody. But anyway, back to our tribute to Heath Ledger. So I guess the last thing I want to touch on is just favorite moments and scenes in the movie. And we got a few responses from people on Twitter that I want to get to. And, easily I can go to the interrogation scene, and that is my favorite sequence of the movie. I've talked about that sequence to death, so I won't go into full detail here. But again, it's just everything I love about Batman and the Joker is encased in that one scene. It's just perfect. And probably my favorite moment of the Joker is in that scene where Batman's punching him and he's just laughing his head off. And my favorite dialogue of the whole movie is when he says, "You have nothing to threaten me with all your strength." I mean, that thing rings more true to the power that Joker has over Batman in that moment and in other encounters that they had in the comics and other stories. That's why he's his greatest enemy right there. It's just perfect, so perfect. But just to be a little different for this one, like I said, I'm always going to the interrogation scene as my favorite. I'm going to go to the one you mentioned earlier, Dane, about the first. It's not technically the first moment we see him, but it's the first time we see him in his full getup, costume, makeup, and all. Is when he encounters all the mob bosses. I mean, it just starts out perfectly where he gives, a sarcastic laugh. It's not the typical maniacal, crazy Joker laugh. It's just that, aha, ooh, hee, ha, mocking all the gangsters. I just love how he enters in like that. He does the magic trick to get their attention, and he just calls everybody out there, of how they're afraid of Batman, and I like how he puts your group therapy sessions in broad daylight, and just more great performance, or it's a sequence that shows how great Heath Ledger's performance is here. In little certain moments, I like it. When one of the small little things here that I like is when Gamble keeps calling him a freak. That's like the one thing Joker kind of takes seriously, where he doesn't believe himself as a freak. He doesn't give any, comeback or sarcastic remark to that. He kind of takes it really personal. First time Gamble says it, he just kind of gives like glance at him. He doesn't acknowledge it. He just moves on in his conversation, or for what he wants to tell the mob bosses. And then when it comes up again, I just like how you could tell he's angered by that and just frustrated when he hears the word freak, where he just goes, "I'm not a freak. I'm not." You could easily, the way he plays off and says that line, you just know it really irks him, because he's not doing anything over the top or saying a comeback to that. You just know it really affects him. So that's a little small piece of his performance that I always liked. And then just when he calls out Lau about being the squealer, this is one of those other moments of, his mannerisms that really makes, his performance so good, when he goes, I know as for the television and his plan, I know the squealers when I see him. And he doesn't say anything. He just points, makes a hand gesture and points at the TV and has this look on his face yeah, I'm looking at you. And then Lau just turns off the a broadcast from his plane. So that sequence is even though it's, like I said, not the first time we see him, but for the most part, it's a great introduction to the character and to what we're going to see throughout the course of the film. So I think I got to give that sequence a lot of love there. So other than the interrogation scene, which is perfect, I'll go with the first encounter with the mob bosses. So that would be my pick. What about you, Dane? What's another scene that stands out to you as one of his best?
Well, you took mine, Tim.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
For me, in the end, when I look back on Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker, I think the thing that I come away with is that he's best, and it just shows how great of an actor he is. His performance is best when he's not doing anything. He's just talking. You know, it's not CGI'd up. It's not some CGI set. He doesn't have some fantastical makeup on. He doesn't have this big wardrobe. And it's something that I miss, specifically the CGI stuff. You know, there's no CGI. There's nothing. He's just sitting in a room talking, like the interrogation scene. But to me, it's the Harvey Dent scene when Harvey's in the hospital.
Yeah, it's a great one.
He somehow sneaks in that in that nurse's outfit, and he's imparting to Harvey his philosophy on life, and he's like I said, he's not doing anything. He kind of does have a weird outfit on, but I mean, how else was he going to sneak to the hospital, right? And it's just him imparting his philosophy on life, and there's no action going on in it. He's the only person in the scene. Harvey's just there as a reactionary character. Nothing's really going on, and I think that's when Heath Ledger really shines. It's not the big action scenes, because it can't. Because Joker is this gangly guy. He's not a fighter. He can't go up against Batman, and and I think Heath Ledger really understood that. And it's these scenes where he's not doing anything. Also, the scene where he's hanging upside down after Batman brings out his secret blades or whatever. He's just hanging upside down, and he's just monologuing about how he sees the world. And I think that's what Heath Ledger got right. And I think, looking at Jared Leto's performance, it's like that's what's missing. And I know he's trying to do that, and I know he's trying to do what Heath Ledger did, but Heath Ledger already did it, and he did it better. And that's kind of the problem that I have with Jared Leto's Joker. And speaking of which, he is in Blade Runner 2049. And
that's right, yeah.
It's kind of like he's so good in that movie. He's so good. It's a character role. He does it's in the same location, all like three of his scenes, and he's so good in that movie. And it's kind of like, what happened between that and Suicide Squad? It's like what happened? But in the end, I think Heath Ledger is. I'm gonna remember him. His performance as the Joker, where he's not really doing anything; he's just talking, and it's one of those things where he goes on and on and on and on and on about his ideas, and then in the end, you realize, like, hey, I actually learned something about the Joker that I didn't know before, or at least his Joker. And I think that's what I'm going to take away from his performance. So I'd probably say the scene with Harvey in the hospital.
Yeah, that's a great one. You nailed it. I mean, like you said, if he's not doing anything, he's just talking. He still just captivates you, and you're just entranced with his performance. So yeah, good choice there. So yeah, like I said, we got some responses on Twitter from the people on there, what some of their favorite Joker moments or scenes were from The Dark Knight. And first up, we got from Always Hold On to Smallville at Always Smallville. He goes, the video torture scene was his best moment, in my opinion. One of the only times I've actually been scared of the Joker. Look at me. Him changing gears between silly and threatening, too. Brilliant. That's the Joker. And yeah, that's a great call out, too. It's a short sequence. We've barely even seen him, but he nails it right here. Always Smallville does by saying, you're frightened at the Joker, but at the same time, he's still playful too. The way he, carries that cowl, that fake Batman, he like shakes it. He's like, oh, and then he says that scream. He goes, "Look at me! You're terrified there." So that's a great, I think, underrated scene too. It's short, but it really drives home how threatening the Joker is. So great call on that one. And then Jim Bob Squarepants at Vintage GT says,
I like that name.
Yeah. He goes, there are so many. He was spellbinding. This one probably takes it for me the one that probably takes it for me is when he infiltrates Bruce Wayne's penthouse. He is genuinely scary in that scene. It's hard to pick one as I love every scene he's in, but this one stays with me the most, I think. And then Mark Lemke at Dur Lemke, or I should say Dur_Lemke is his exact Twitter handle.
Yeah.
He goes, where he says, what doesn't kill you makes you stranger. Also the scene where he has the man hostage and yells, look at me. I felt frightened. He felt like a true threat. And then Salman Siddiqui, hope I'm saying that right, at Salman 128. For me, it was when Batman fell from the Batpod after swerving around the Joker. Then one of his goons gets electrocuted trying to remove the cowl, and Joker has a maniacal laugh and starts kicking him. Really showed how twisted he was. Yeah, that's another, small sequence, but I love it every time. Just the Joker getting at his own goon. That's another thing I don't know if was, improv or if it was in the script or not.
And he spits on him too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He goes, because it seems like something that would be improv by Heath Ledger by some of the other stuff I mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but whether it was or wasn't, it was a great moment too for the Joker. And then Rob Myers at drummer Rob 10 says, I feel that you and I are destined to do this forever. Yeah, I mean, that line, there's so much to love about that line. And just, again, sad that we never, got to see more of that come to fruition. And then finally, Jordan at Bat-Fan Jordan, which is, it's kind of strange reading a tweet from him too. We usually just get emails from Jordan, but glad he chimed in here with his thoughts. He goes, every time Heath was on screen was breathtaking. However, I got to go with the scene with the mob. Why So Serious scene with Gamble, the interrogation scene with Batman, and the scene at the hospital with Two-Face as my favorites. So, yeah, thank you everyone for chiming in and sharing your thoughts as we pay tribute to Heath Ledger here. What I liked about the responses we got, so many different ones you can go with, and all of them are great for different reasons. And again, it's just a testament to what a truly legendary, iconic performance that Heath Ledger gave us for the Joker. So, yeah, being that it's now 10 years since he passed away, it just felt right that we had to honor his great performance and pay tribute to him. So glad we were able to do that. And, it's a big year for The Dark Knight. It's going to be its 10-year anniversary as well in July. So kind of want to save more of a discussion for the actual movie in general, probably around July when we get closer to the 10-year anniversary, because, like I said earlier, we never really got a chance to talk about it in full. And I think a 10-year anniversary would be the perfect opportunity to do that. So look forward to that later, but we wanted to make sure we, pay tribute to Heath Ledger at this time because it's, so well deserved as we documented it in this discussion how great his performance was and will never ever be forgotten.
All right, so yeah, that's it for a featured topic. That was a good featured topic, Tim.
Yeah, it was, sadly the circumstances of what brought it up, but again, it's just great, like I said, talking about how awesome that performance is. So thank you, Dave.
So yeah, we can get onto our news. First piece of news is that John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein are going to direct the Flashpoint movie. It's weird how they're still going through with this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're pretty dead set on making Flash's movie be Flashpoint, which, you know, I said this before. I'd love to see a Flashpoint movie at some point, but not right now. Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, again, hopefully these two will stick. Flash has already went through two different directors already. So, and these guys, I think more recently, they're mainly known for writing Spider-Man: Homecoming. So, we'll see what they do with directing a big budget, big superhero movie. But they've written Spider-Man well because Spider-Man: Homecoming was really good. So hopefully they can bring that to as directors to the Flash movie. So I'm kind of mixed where, I'm glad it's still happening and still on the table. It's moving into production. But again, still think it might be a little too early to be doing Flashpoint now. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know you're not going to be too excited about it.
Like you said, it's too soon. Well, maybe they're trying to reset their universe after Justice League. And they're, you're going to use the Flashpoint movie to do that. I mean, you don't need a whole movie to do that. You could just be like, okay, now this person is going to play Batman,
I know.
Whatever.
Like, the whole point of this movie better not be based to reset the whole thing. That better not be its main purpose. That would be a big mistake, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just do it because you want to tell a really cool story, not to reset things.
Our second piece of news is that Justice League is going to release on digital February 13th. So in about 3 weeks. And it's going to be on Blu-ray March 13th. So a whole month later, Tim. And I know you have something to say about it. So why don't you say it?
Why do you do this, Warner Brothers? Why? I mean, I already don't like the big gaps, and I think you've heard me rant about this before, between digital and Blu-ray. I mean, I could live with a 2-week gap, like the Disney stuff and the Marvel films usually do, but a whole month? I mean, before with Warner Brothers, it used to be like 3 weeks, which I thought was pushing it, but a whole month to wait for it? Like, come on. I know they probably wanted to increase the sales for the digital and all that, but that's just way too long. And again, especially if you're going to package the digital code with the Blu-ray, like, I can't justify buying it early when I know I'm going to get it a month earlier on the Blu-ray disc, which I still prefer using, and a digital code with that too. So it still bugs me that they wait this long, and it seems to be getting longer and longer with each big film. So yeah, it would have been nice if the Blu-ray came out in February. I mean, be right around the corner, and I'd be excited to have it again. But I got to wait another month for that. So that was really disappointing. And it looks like the special features on it's going to be your standard fare documentaries, and they're making a big deal about 2 bonus Superman sequences, or I don't know if it's just 2, but they say more bonus Superman scenes not included in theaters, but it's just going to be like a deleted scene. It's not going to be incorporated into the movie or anything. Yeah, from what I'm hearing, it's only going to be like 2 minutes long total, so it's not going to be anything substantial.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So I'm like, what's really the point? I mean, what is he doing it? Does he I don't know, is it him putting on the cape?
I think so. I think there's one shot they showed he's back at his ship.
Yeah.
Like in the snow. Well, so it looks like it was from the shot from Man of Steel, but again, the ship was, it's like in Metropolis where it's, been confiscated by the government, so it wouldn't be in the snow again. But maybe it just looks similar, so I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Are they still doing the Zack Snyder cut? Or are those people still petitioning or whatever? Warner Brothers? Petition's
still there. I know a few weeks ago they actually went, a handful of people went to Warner Brothers Studios to kind of protest or petition it. But
did it work?
No, because it doesn't exist. That's the thing.
Yeah, because you figure his family tragedy happened before they were done shooting, right?
Or at least in the midst still of post-production where it was they were finishing scenes and all that.
Or a cut.
Exactly.
Really rough cut of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those scenes aren't even finished. That there was a Snyder cut. I mean, it'd be like a big undertaking if they were to do it, which I don't think Warner Brothers is going to do, and pour any more money into a movie where they lost money on. So it ain't happening.
And they're not going to do a George Lucas special editions?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Which I was kind of surprised we're not getting an extended edition of this, which I wouldn't mind seeing.
They should do that with the new Star Wars films.
I would love that.
Like a 3 like what they did with Lord of the Rings. Like do like a 3-4 hour cut of it.
Yeah, I've been championing that for so long. Even for the old Star Wars movies, I would love that. We got a little bit with the special editions, but I know there's more they can add.
Yeah, but hopefully they get a Zack Snyder cut. Like, I mean, I guess like if they're willing to go to the Warner Brothers Studios, and hold signs out there. Hopefully they get it.
Yeah, well, I want to get my hopes up. Sorry, but just speaking the truth.
I wonder why they want that.
They think it's going to be better, but from what I've heard about it, I don't think it will be.
Yeah.
Considering how they handle Superman, where I think he's mainly evil for a lot more of the film. I mean, there might be some cool stuff in there, but yeah, I wouldn't change how they handle Superman in this one. I thought the way they did Superman was really good for the most part.
Well, anyway, our last piece of news is Scott Snyder is going to take over the main Justice League comic.
About freaking time, I'll say that. Because not just because it's Scott Snyder taking over, but the main Justice League comic has needed a real big shot in the arm since Rebirth. I dropped the title after the first arc. I mean, I heard it got a little better, but not enough to warrant me to pick it back up. But if still Scott Snyder's on the title, I'm definitely going to get invested in it again to see how it is. But I will say, a little mixed on the announcement they made about it so far, because the details is once Dark Knight's Metal ends in March, there's going to be a 4-issue weekly miniseries that starts on May 9th. It's going to be called Justice League No Justice. It's going to be written by Scott Snyder, James Tynion IV, and Joshua Williamson, with art by Francis Manapul, which, if anything, if the stories aren't good, it's going to look beautiful because Francis Manapul is such a good artist. And it's going to be weird. It's going to be like different members of the Justice League split up into like fragments of the teams, where you got Batman with his own team, Superman with his own team, Wonder Woman. And it's going to be a mix of like heroes and villains in there. I think Harley's going to be a part of it. And so it's just going to be like, a mixture of different various DC characters, which I'm not 100% sold on, because it just seems a little too gimmicky in some we've seen before. I mean, it is different than Forever Evil, but that whole point of the bad guys becoming the good guys or working with the good guys, it kind of seems a little recent that we've been there, done that a little bit to me. Yeah. I'm sure Snyder will make it his own and have it be a completely different story, because the thing is, the synopsis where Brainiac comes to tell the Justice Leaguers there's a main threat coming when you need more than what you already got, that type of thing. And so I'm just curious to see what the actual story is going to be and how it all plays out with these different characters. But then once that No Justice miniseries ends, the articles from IGN, they're the ones who broke the story. They said that it's going to set the stage for a family of Justice League comics starting in June, and the flagship would be written by Scott Snyder. Then others would be by James Tynion, Joshua Williamson, and more. So I don't know. I'm excited if it was just Scott Snyder taking on the main Justice League title. That's cool, but I'm not sure about more Justice League like family books. That I'm just hoping it's not going to be, one Justice League with Batman's team, another Justice League with Superman's team, another Justice League with Wonder Woman's team. Those are going to be the different books. I just want a main Justice League book with all the core members that I know and love, written by Scott Snyder. That's what I'm hoping for. And hopefully that will be the case for the main title, but I'm a little nervous that might not be, depending on, judging from the description we got for No Justice. And again, like I said in the last episode, I haven't been the biggest fan of Dark Knight's Metal, so I've kind of got to have a wait and see approach to see how that ends and how that leads into this new story for Justice League. So while I'm excited for Scott Snyder taking on the main Justice League book, I'm just a little, nervous about what it's going to be and how different it's going to be from a Justice League book that I was hoping for. So we'll see. If anything, like I said before, it's just great that it's getting some much needed new blood, and such a great writer like Scott Snyder being on board still has me excited enough where I'm going to at least check it out once it starts. So we'll just have to wait and see if it delivers.
Well, like you said, at least it'll look pretty.
Yeah, at the very least.
Speaking of which, I had no idea. I told you about this earlier. I had no idea that Jock worked on The Last Jedi.
Yeah, that surprised me when you texted me that. I was like, what?
yeah. Like, well, according to the interview, like he was in the costume design team. He worked on it for 9 months at Pinewood Studios. And he according to him, he did the new Praetorian Guards. Like I said, Leia's I don't know what you call it, cloak, shawl.
Mm.
The one that Carrie Fisher's wearing in the Vanity Fair articles.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
He said Luke's costume at the end, right?
yeah, the black one, because they originally they were just gonna have Luke wearing what he wore in the beginning, but then I guess Jock took a shot at it and made that. And like I was telling you, apparently none of the design team had any idea what was going to be in the movie until they actually saw the movie.
Yeah.
Which is so weird to me. It's like they didn't know which things that they worked on made it into the movie. So like he helped design DJ, his outfit, Rose's outfit, some of the spaceships, just stuff like that. So yeah, it's totally surprising. And no wonder he's not working on DC. He got something better.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to top Star Wars, that's for sure. Actual Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, like let's say, like I told you, next time I see the movie, I have to see if I see his name in the credits. But now I'm thinking about it. I haven't finished the whole art book of The Last Jedi yet, but now I just flip through it to see if I see his name on any of those designs that you mentioned, to see if his artwork made it to that book. That'd be cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally surprised me. I was like, wait, dude, you worked on Star Wars?
Yeah, just another great feather to put in his cap, man.
Yeah. But anyway, now we can move on to our conversation with Alex / listener feedback, and we do have an email from Jordan. So Tim, do you want to read it?
Yep.
Oh wait, before we get to that, I follow Jordan on Twitter. He tweets a lot about Smallville, and
hence
Clark
why our title is so appropriate.
Yeah, Clark and Lana. Was that relationship really written that well?
I'll just say it had its moments, but
okay.
Yeah, you've heard me talk about that a while, and yeah, I don't want to, upset Jordan just right before we're going to read the
of course not. Of course not. I was just, I wasn't trying to bash it or anything. I was just wondering, because like I've said 1,000 times on this podcast, I've only seen the pilot of Smallville, and it seems like Clark falls in love with the one woman that he can't be with because she's wearing a kryptonite necklace. So.
Well, it sounds to me, Dane, that you need to watch the whole series.
Is it on Netflix? Is it on Hulu?
It's on Hulu, yes.
Oh, it is. Okay, I gotta give it a shot. Then.
At least watch more than the pilot. At least make it a little further.
Yeah. Well, I kind of wanted to see the Christopher Reeve episodes.
Yeah,
he was in
awesome.
it, right?
Yeah.
Who does he play?
He plays like a scientist researcher who it's just been a while since I've seen it, but he discovers kind of pretty much where Clark is from Krypton and all that, and looking out to the stars and putting things together, and he kind of reveals more about Clark's history from Krypton pretty early on in season 2, and then he comes back in season 3. So.
And if I'm remembering correctly, didn't Christopher Reeve pass away around that time?
Not too long after that. I think a year after season 3, something like that.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I'm not bashing Jordan's love of that show, Smallville, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, like I say, time to find out for yourself, I say. But Jordan sends in an email as always and says, "Hey, Tim and Dane. I love the new podcast name, LOL. I feel honored. I have to say the name definitely sums me up well. Thanks, guys. I wasn't over the moon about Dunkirk. I'm saying this as a huge Christopher Nolan fan. He's my favorite director. I've seen every one of his feature films since Memento and absolutely love them all, with The Dark Knight Rises being my favorite movie of all time up until Dunkirk. I like Dunkirk.
Okay. Maybe I am bashing his love of Smallville. No, I'm just playing.
We're going to get into a Dunkirk Smallville match right here. He goes, I like Dunkirk, and I might have been singing its praises had it been made by anyone other than Nolan, but I just expect greatness from him. And this fell short of that for me. It's incredible from a visual standpoint, and I think it really is unique in how it captures the tension of the events taking place. However, I feel that Nolan prioritized spectacle over story with this film. I understand what he was going for with the lack of dialogue, but it hurt the movie in my opinion. I had trouble getting invested in the characters or following the story. It wasn't as compelling, nor did it have the emotional impact on me as Nolan's previous films. It's ironic that this may wind up being the first movie for which Nolan wins an Oscar, something I've been wanting for him for a long time, yet it's my least favorite of his films.
Yeah, I think it was... I think Nolan going into this movie just assumed that you knew what happened in Dunkirk, rather than explaining the context behind it. It's more like maybe it was made for a British audience, where I'm sure they know a lot more about what happened at Dunkirk, rather than an American audience or whoever else, where it's like he's not going to take the time to explain every single thing that happened before and what is going on. I think he just assumes that you know what happened.
Yeah, and I get where Jordan's coming from here, how it won't work for everybody, and it didn't really work for him altogether. But at the same time, I understand the opposite too, what Nolan was going for, and how it's kind of like he just dropped a cameraman into the Battle of Dunkirk without anyone knowing, who just filming what was going on and their reactions. That's why there isn't a lot of dialogue and like that. And I can appreciate that too, which is why I really enjoyed it. It was something different in the style that Nolan did for this film, which I appreciated. So
it's a bit like Star Wars, A New Hope, right? You get a little bit of text, but then you're right in the middle of a battle.
Yeah, that I guess how it starts. I guess yeah. It makes sense that way. But Jordan continued saying, "I can't tell whose apartment Gordon and Blake are in when watching Bane reading the speech either." And yeah, we're still stuck on that one too. We'll see if we figure it out by the time that sequence is over.
It's the big mystery of Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, if we can't figure that out during our minute-by-minute commentary, it would be all for nothing. We must get to the bottom of it. He goes, I love listening to your 2017 DC year in review. I think 2017 was one of the best years in my lifetime when it comes to DC, quite honestly. My pick for best writer goes to, no surprise here, Tom King. You'll understand why as his work is going to continue popping up in other categories, but I'll explain here what I love about his writing so much here. His run has felt like a dream come true for me. It's been almost everything I could have possibly asked for when it comes to Batman comics. Specifically speaking to 2017, he started the year off with Rooftops, which was a beautiful love letter to the Bat-Cat relationship. I declared it my favorite comic story of all time at that time. I wasn't sure anything would ever top it, let alone in 2017. Yet King somehow outdid himself slightly later in the year. I've already revealed on a previous episode what it was that topped it, but for the sake of this email, I'll save mentioning it for when I get to my favorite single issue of 2017. King continued on and made something happen that I've been waiting years and years to see. Batman proposing to Catwoman. My OTP is getting married. Now that they're engaged, he's begun to write a lot of them both fighting crime together.
What's OTP?
Yeah, I looked that up and I already forgot. I think it's a original pairing, but I don't know what the T stands for. Let me look that up again.
Original true pairing?
One true pairing. That's what it means.
One true pairing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See, I got the true part. Correct.
Yeah, see, that's how out of touch I am, or we are now.
I guess so.
The terms nowadays these kids are using.
I've told my sisters this, that the only reason why I know I'm getting old is that I can't stay up late anymore. I get so tired.
Yeah, that's a pretty big sign. What time do you usually find yourself going to sleep now?
About like 11:30.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty early.
it's getting really hard for me to stay up late. Also, like OTP, I don't understand, and some of the abbreviations on Twitter. It's like I
Yeah.
end up having to like LRT. Like I didn't know what that stood for.
Yeah, you're not alone, Dane.
Good.
Yeah, well, Jordan is teaching us the new slang now, so we should be
guess
thankful for
so.
that.
I guess so.
Help keep us young. But he says, now that they're engaged, he began to write a lot of them both fighting crime together and doing normal couple things together. See Batman 37 and Batman 38. Speaking of Batman 37, it proves that King can write humor just as well as drama. I've lost count how many times I've cried reading his run, but this issue had me howling with laughter. King made the first big misstep of probably the entire run in Batman 39. I'll get to that later. But even that doesn't even really put a dent in how happy he's made me as a reader this year. He writes the Bat-Cat relationship better than anyone before him, and it's because of how well he understands that dynamic. They're two broken people, and because they're broken, they have the edges that fit together. Amen to that. King also manages to walk the line of writing Batman as vulnerable while still being powerful, which I find so impressive. My favorite artist of 2017 is Joelle Jones. She's back working with King again now, but that wasn't in 2017, so I'm not factoring that in. What I'm factoring in is her gorgeous art in the Rules of Engagement, all 3 issues of which did come out in 2017. The way she draws Batman, especially in his nightmare suit, and Catwoman is extraordinary. I really dig Jones' style. The moment that really stands out to me with her art is the scene at the end of Batman 35. Damian asks Batman, "Are you happy?" There's a panel where Batman and Catwoman look into each other's eyes, and you can literally see the love they have for one another on the page. It's after that Batman replies, I'm getting there. But I already had tears in my eyes from the beauty of how Jones conveyed the love between Batman and Catwoman in the prior panel. Alrighty, now to move on to my favorite single comic book issue of 2017.
Can I just say
Drum
something?
roll,
Tim?
please.
Can
Oh,
I
what's
just say
that?
something real quick?
What's that?
Jordan is gonna be so let down when he's gonna be so heartbroken when inevitably they get a divorce or whatever.
Or don't even get married.
Yeah, don't even get married, and they end up like going their separate ways.
Well, Jordan, if the unthinkable of that happens, you definitely have an outlet to let out your frustration and anger in an email to us.
Oh man,
We'll be here for you.
It's gonna be multiple emails.
Yeah. He goes, who am I kidding? I already revealed it a couple episodes ago, and even when I had it, this is about as shocking as to me telling you that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Batman Annual number 2 is not just my favorite comic of 2017, but it's my favorite comic I've ever read. Scratch that. It's my favorite piece of fiction, period, I have ever read.
Wow.
This story is a masterpiece. The way King chronicles the love story of Batman and Catwoman from the first kiss to the last is beautiful. I love how Catwoman sneaks into Wayne Manor at the beginning. Bruce acts like he's annoyed, but you can tell that he's loving every moment of it. When Batman and Catwoman confront each other after she breaks into the safe, there's a moment that further emphasizes how well Catwoman understands Batman. Batman tells Catwoman that his mother died. Catwoman replies that she knows. Batman says that everyone knows. But Catwoman reiterates that she knows, referring to the pain Batman underwent, not the fact that his mother died. My parents, my mother, she left, and growing up here in Gotham, I was astray. I was alone, like you. After they left, after a while, did you ever have that moment where you don't know anything else? Where you're almost like this life? You like being by yourself, and you think maybe it's better, maybe it's okay, and then you hate yourself. You hate everything because it's okay. You see, most people don't truly understand why Batman is the way he is. Catwoman does, though. She doesn't fear him. She understands he's broken, but she loves him anyway. She is broken too. Going back to King's quote that I alluded to before, I love seeing Batman and Catwoman's first kiss, then jumping forward to see them as an elderly couple and seeing their last kiss. I think it's just brilliant how King continues with the ongoing debate between them over whether their first meeting was the one from Batman number 1 or from Batman Year 1. As he's dying, Bruce tells Selina to get Barry to find a version of Bruce from an alternate Earth so that he's always there for her. That is just one of the sweetest Bat-Cat moments ever. Okay, I've got to talk about the end, because it's phenomenal, and although it breaks my heart, it also makes me happy. Early in the issue, Catwoman has been leaving behind mice for Batman. That that pays off so beautifully in the final scene. Selena finds a kitten in the Batmobile with a note that says, "I love you too, cat," from the first kiss to the last. And then Jordan puts balls uncontrollably here. This shows how much Batman always loved Catwoman, and that he would always be there for her. This gave me the same feeling that Dark Knight Rises gave me 5.5 years ago. Although sad, I'm also so elated to see my OTP grow old together and they get a happy ending. Batman Annual number 2 is extraordinary on every level. I seriously want to be buried with this comic book.
Wow.
Yeah, well, thanks for telling us that, Jordan, because we'll make sure that happens. I mean, way, way down the line. Many years from now, we'll make sure you get buried with that issue. If we're still here, I mean, because Jordan is younger than us. So
no, I'm
maybe
I'm totally dead, Tim.
Yeah, maybe we won't be.
But man, I don't think I've ever seen someone so passionate about an annual before.
Yeah,
which is great. Which is great to see, because most of those are just leftover stories.
Yeah, or just little fillers here and there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is a great issue. There's no doubt about it. But I think, I don't think anyone's going to love it as much as Jordan does, which is awesome. And then he goes, for my favorite moment / experience of 2017. This actually doesn't go to a moment from Batman Annual number 2. While that was my favorite overall comic book, there was a moment in a different King issue that I think is my favorite single moment. That would be Batman proposing to Catwoman in Batman 24. Like I said, this is something I've waited so long to see. It's so romantic and beautiful how Batman kept the diamond that Catwoman stole for the first time they met. My joy at reading that final page of Batman kneeling down to propose to Catwoman on the rooftop is something I will never forget. It was such a magical moment.
I'm so sad for Jordan. I'm so sad.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'll be shocked if it lasts longer than... If it lasts through 2018. Something's going to happen when they're already teasing a little wrinkle in there. The issue we'll be talking about today. So hopefully it'll last the whole year.
I give it mid 2018.
Okay, that's your prediction?
Yeah. And that's me being optimistic about it.
Yeah. See, I'm going to be a little more optimistic. I'm going to give it to the end of 2018.
Okay.
We'll see who comes out on top. Then Jordan switches gears and says, I'm happy about Walter Hamada being named president of DC Films. I don't know much about the guy, but I know he has experience turning out big profits from lower budget movies. And I think that's something the DCEU could really use. Spending $300 million on a film is absurd. The Arrowverse TV shows show me on a weekly basis that we have the technology to do incredible things without spending much money at all this day and age. There is no reason why Justice League film should need $300 million when each week the Arrowverse shows do what they do for only a few $1 million an episode. Now, the effects on the Arrowverse shows obviously aren't film quality, but they're not $295 million worse than film effects. Hopefully Hamada will bring some of that thinking to the DCEU. Well, I do agree it should no way spend $300 million on one movie, but I wouldn't compare it to the Arrowverse shows, especially some on the visual effects wise. When you have like fight choreography on Arrow, yeah, those are good, but some of the effects on Flash and Supergirl, they could be a little something to be desired.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say those shows started off with really good effects, and it seems like they're regressing more than progressing as the years go by. Like they're losing money for the budget for the effects. It seems to be getting worse. But
yeah,
that's the nitpick I still have.
And what's going on the Flash? It seems like has a court case or something.
Yeah, he got framed for murder and was found guilty of that murder, so he's in jail right now. Which is
Barry Allen or the Flash?
Yeah, Barry.
Oh, okay.
Which is, making for one of the more compelling story elements of, all the DC shows so far, in my opinion anyway. It's the best one going on right now. Yeah.
Oh, they're doing it good?
Yeah. It took them a while to get there, but once they finally got in there, that story point has been really good.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going on because, you see, I guess pictures of his lawyer and then, in the courtroom, and he's wearing, a nice suit, and I was just wondering what was going on there.
Yeah. That was 2 weeks ago, but now he's, fully in jail. He has a sentence.
Why doesn't he just flash out of there?
He has to serve his time. He doesn't want to be on the run because he wants to prove his innocence and all that.
Or just go back in time and just make sure there's no way that you could be even possibly a suspect.
Well, he's went back in time one too many times to mess things up. I don't think he's going to be doing that again with the potential to mess more stuff up in the timeline. So he's stuck.
And they are Iris and Barry are married?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. How come Jordan doesn't talk about that?
I guess he doesn't like it as much as the Lana and Clark relationship.
Or Oliver and Felicity.
You had to bring that up again. I already went on my rant about that last episode. So nothing's changed on that front. I'll say that.
Why has it gotten worse? Or
no, not since last week.
Yeah.
It's the same, but
okay,
which is enough to still annoy me.
I won't ask you about it.
You can ask me again when the season's over, and I have a feeling it probably will be worse by then. But Jordan continues saying, you guys talked about the synopsis, stills, and cast for Suicide Squad Hell to Pay. Not only do I want to touch on those, but the trailer has now dropped as well. So I definitely want to chat about that too. I was shocked that it dropped so soon. When it comes to the DCU AOM line, usually we get a first look bonus feature along with the previous entry in that line. In this case, Batman Gotham by Gaslight. And then we get the trailer. In this case, though, they released the trailer before Gotham by Gaslight is even out. And I think the reason for that, Jordan, is because those first looks always get leaked before the movies come out. So maybe they wanted to jump ahead of that and just release the trailer, which, in my opinion, I think is the smart way to go. But he continues saying, Tim, I was too nervous about the part in the synopsis where the Suicide Squad is tracking down a mystical object. I was thinking the exact same thing. Did they not learn the lesson from the live-action Suicide Squad movie? However, based on the trailer, it looks like this film will be, by and large, more grounded than the live-action one. I'm really intrigued by the road trip style they seem to be going for. I mean, saying that the Suicide Squad members have eccentric personalities seems like an understatement, and cramming them all into an RV for a long road trip seems like it would cause very entertaining chaos to ensue. I'm so happy with some of the non-squad member villains that are going to appear in this movie. As I said before, Professor Pig is one of the most underrated Batman villains in my opinion, and it's awesome that he's being used in this movie for just a second time in animation. The inclusion of him and Tobias Whale make me wonder if they're trying to create a little bit of synergy with the DC TV shows, as Professor Pig was on Gotham this season, and Tobias is the big bad of Black Lightning Season 1, the premiere of which was awesome, by the way. There are a few actors that have me quite excited as well. Christian Slater, Tara Strong, and C. Thomas Howell are reprising their respective roles from the other projects as Deadshot, Harley Quinn, and Zoom, in the case of Strong from many other projects, and I've been extremely impressed with all three of their previous work as their respective characters. I was also quite pleased with what we heard from Vanessa Williams as Amanda Waller in the trailer. Yeah, when I saw the trailer, I kind of agree with you, Jordan. The stuff where, it's like the road trip and they're encountering all these other villains they have to go up against with seems like it could be a lot of fun. But I just wish, because it seems like they're doing another origin for the Suicide Squad. We got Amanda Waller recruiting them, telling them, about the devices that'll blow them up if, they don't, do what she says and all that. It's like we've covered that already in, previous Suicide Squad movies, the Assault on Arkham, not to mention the live action movie. So I just feel it doesn't need to be something they have to retread in another Suicide Squad movie. Just have them be the team already and go on another mission. So to me, it just seems like time that could be spent elsewhere instead of recapping all their origin, which for fans of the Suicide Squad who's going to watch this movie, we already know. So hopefully it won't be, a big portion of the movie. They'll just get to the point right away. And he continues saying, I finally watched Spider-Man Homecoming, so I thought I'd share my thoughts. I really enjoyed it. Tom Holland is just so entertaining as both Spidey and Peter Parker. I liked him in Captain America Civil War, but he really gets to shine here. I absolutely love his suit, too. Well, the name of it. It was also a treat to see Michael Keaton in a superhero movie again. The film is a blast, and it's probably my favorite MCU movie to date. That being said, it doesn't hold a candle to either of the Amazing Spider-Man films, since, as far as I'm concerned. There is nothing in Homecoming that is as compelling as Peter and Gwen's relationship, and there's nothing as emotional resonant at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Homecoming certainly didn't make me stop wishing they hadn't rebooted again. Well, glad to hear you enjoyed it, but disappointed you didn't like it more than the Amazing Spider-Man movies, because I still hold Homecoming above those two, because like I said before, to me it's the perfect balance of Peter Parker and Spider-Man throughout a course of a movie. And like you said, Tom Holland just nails it for both characters. So That's why I put it over The Amazing Spider-Man, where I felt it focused too much on the Peter and Gwen stuff and not mixing the right amount of Spider-Man and all that. But that's why we all have opinions, and there's, 6 Spider-Man movies now we could debate on which is the best, but I think we'll all agree Spider-Man 3 will never be on anyone's favorite Spider-Man movie list. Not to go back to that again, but he continues saying, if I didn't know how far in advance they write their episodes, I think the Arrow writers listened to our gripes on the last one. The premiere was really good. It still isn't back to season 5 level, but it felt to me like the very strong start to the second half of season 6. Seeing Green Arrow out in the field solo taking on many of the enemies at once brought me right back to season 1, and it was great to see. Thea gave the season a jolt when she came out of the coma a few episodes ago, and I continued enjoying her presence in this episode. I miss her so much at the beginning of the season. Black Siren had some good moments, and I loved that she blew a kiss to do her canary cry. There were some really cool nods to the episode, too. Seeing Jerry Bertinelli and hearing Huntress mentioned multiple times made me want to see her again even more. Hopefully that was intentional, planting the seeds for her return. There was also a pretty fun nod to Batman, which I certainly appreciated. I think that's 3 for the season. Yeah, Arrow's been okay once it came back. I like the dynamic of the team splitting up, but the main villain, Caden James, to me right now is a retread of what we just saw of Prometheus. You know, his motivation being that he thinks Green Arrow killed his son and he wants revenge. We just saw that last year with Adrian Chase about wanting revenge for his father. And to me, this was like, the writers couldn't think of a better reason to motivate this villain. So that's been a little disappointing to me, the whole villain aspect. So maybe there's more to come to be revealed, but we'll see. That's been the biggest disappointment for me this far in this season of Arrow. And Scooby-Doo and Batman the Brave and the Bold is out now. I feel like I should put a spoiler tag in here, but let's be honest. It's Batman and Brave and the Bold team-up movie, so there's not much to spoil. I have very mixed feelings on this film. I've never been the biggest Batman Brave and the Bold fan, and because of that, I actually consider this a much better Scooby-Doo movie than I do a Batman movie. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Scooby-Doo, and I enjoyed this film a lot as a Scooby-Doo film, because the tone of this movie works much better for my preference when it comes to Scooby-Doo than it does Batman. I was not a fan of Catwoman's portrayal in this movie. They portrayed her as a straight-up villain. She didn't have a single scene with Batman, and they gave her a different suit than she had in the actual show that I didn't care for. Jeffrey Combs reprised his role as the Question from Justice League Unlimited, which was awesome, but there was something off about his performance. There were some cringeworthy Batman lines in the film. I go wherever puppet-related criminal rears, or he goes, I go wherever puppet-related crime rears its ugly head. And they made as much of a fool of Bane as Batman and Robin did. There's a scene where Batman is in a diner while it's open in his costume that was utterly ridiculous. I know similar things happened in a scene I love in the new Batman Adventures, but there it was in the middle of the night and the diner was closed. I also don't like how many aspects of the Batman mythology Batman the Brave and the Bold neglects in general, and that extends to this movie. In the film, we don't see Alfred, Gordon, Wayne Manor, or Bruce out of costume. In the movie, Batman runs a team of mystery solvers. Plastic Man is on it, and I didn't even understand why they use him instead of Elongated Man, since they have similar powers, and Elongated Man is actually a detective. But I'm sure Dane is happy they use Plastic Man, though. Also, I can't stand Aquaman as he is portrayed in The Brave and the Bold. He's irritating, and if I can talk, he's irritating in every insult people make towards the character. As I said, there's the stuff I like, though. There are some pretty funny moments in the film, such as one involving Scooby and Shaggy in Arkham Asylum, and one from the trailer where Batman learns the hard way that Scooby-Doo doesn't know left from right. As a huge fan of the animated series of Batman, I loved hearing Tom Kenny reprise his role as the Penguin from the show. He didn't voice him in The Brave and the Bold. I enjoyed how many villains they were able to include in the movie, even though many of them just made cameos. I really loved the Scooby-Doo characters, and while I took issue with the portrayals of many DC characters, I loved pretty much everything specifically involving the Scooby-Doo characters, and that's what makes the film work for me overall. It's also played on my nostalgia for Scooby-Doo meets Batman, which I watched a lot as a kid. Yeah, I haven't seen this one yet. I want to because, as you probably know, Jordan, I'm a big fan of Batman Brave and the Bold and the silliness of it. So I'd be leaning more towards that more than the Scooby-Doo stuff. But like you said, it's a good mixture of the Scooby-Doo, and I'll probably enjoy the Batman stuff more than you did in this one. Although I'll probably end up liking it once I do see it. But I just hope it sparks more Brave and the Bold movies or shorts or something. I don't think we're going to get a new series, but If we just get more of that version of Batman, I'll be happy because I've always been a big fan. And he goes, Batman 38 was such a cool story. Spoilers, it was really intriguing and frankly disturbing detective story. I really love how we see Batman put the pieces together through the issue. The reveal of who the killer actually was made my jaw drop. Yes, or I skipped a line there. He goes, after it made my jaw drop, and I think it's so fascinating how Maddie perverts the idea of Batman in a way. You're a sick kid with dead parents. Well, yes, but what else is Bruce Wayne? That line really stuck with me. Even though this issue took the focus away from the Bat-Cat relationship a bit, King still threw in all these lovely little Bat-Cat moments. Has Selina moved into Wayne Manor yet? It certainly looks like it. I love seeing her having dinner together again. In Heart of Hush, we learn that Selina likes to pretend that she's asleep with Bruce and talking every thought she's really listening. And one of the best Bat-Cat scenes ever. I'd like to think Selina was doing the same thing here in Batman 38. There's also the moment where Bruce comes back to Wayne Manor after confronting Maddie, and you can tell the encounter is haunting him. Selina is sitting on the couch waiting for him. In my headcanon, I like to think Bruce sat with her as she comforted him in that moment of self-doubt was presumably having. Phenomenal stuff in that issue. Remember how I talked about King's first real misstep of its entire run before? Yeah, unfortunately, I've got to get to that now. I have a feeling you could have guessed what I was referring to. Batman 39 was another amazing Tom King story up until the final panel, which is absolutely horrid. And I should mention absolutely horrid, all in caps. Spoilers. Let me focus on the positives first. So I don't have another temper tantrum like the Penguin in Batman Returns when Batman stopped him from controlling the Batmobile. The opening scene with Gordon where he was about to rip whoever lit up the bat signal a new one until he realized it was Wonder Woman was hilarious. I love the scenes in the Batcave between Batman and Catwoman and their banter. I've said it before many times, but I'll say it again. No one writes those two better. I cracked up at their back and forth about whether Batman has a thing for warring on crime or not. I couldn't help but just smile as Catwoman was trying not to laugh and failing and telling Batman that his new armor looked ridiculous. They're absolutely the best. The whole twist about time moving slower on Earth than in the alternate realm where the Gentleman was fighting him, knowingly trapping Batman and Wonder Woman there for 10 years was pretty brilliant and shocking. I'm ready for Catwoman to kick his butt now. As my final positive comment before I move on to my gigantic negative, Jones's art is breathtaking. I named her my favorite artist of 2017 for a reason, and she could easily earn that again in 2018 if she continues working with King and doing stuff like this. Alrighty, on to the elephant in the room. The final panel involves Bruce and Diana leaning towards each other, and it made me sick to my stomach. What was that? The worst case scenario is that Batman is going to cheat on Selina. I don't think that's going to happen, and it better not. Bruce loves Selina more than anything, and it would be entirely out of character for him to do that. King has also shown me over the course of his run that he seems to be a big Bat-Cat shipper as I am. I can't imagine him doing something like that. So my guess and hope is that it's just a fake out and that Bruce is going to back away. Again, he better. I've also heard theories that this is an imposter, not really Diana, that he's with, and that Bruce leaning in to get close enough to attack her. I think those are the best case scenarios. But even then, this scene is completely unnecessary and one would have served to anger me and stress me out for 2 weeks. In that case, that Bruce is going to back away, or in the case that Bruce is going to back away, I guess the intention was for this to be seen as a test for Bruce's love for Selina. The thing is, we don't need that. We know how much Bruce loves Selina. Now, of course, I'm always thrilled to get reminded of that, but certainly not in this way. Crossing my fingers for the best. I really think everything is going to be okay. And even so, this is likely always going to bother me, unfortunately. Yeah, you'll hear what I have to say about that shortly, Jordan, but I knew when I read that you weren't going to be too happy about that. And now I could just picture you being like the Penguin, reading your comic and just being so visibly upset while you're reading that. But his questions are, for this email, on Arrow, do you think that either Roy, who we know is coming back, or Helena Bertinelli, or Lena Bertinelli, and I can't talk on this email, who best, or who, again, let me just start this all over.
Jeez, Tim, what's going on?
I know. On Arrow, do you think that either Roy, who we know is coming back, or Helena Bertinelli, who, based on the last episode, could be coming back, will team up with Oliver on Arrow to give him a hand while the newbies are no longer working with him. Would you want to see that? There, I was able to make it through the question. But as far as Roy and Helena go, I wouldn't mind that, actually. Like I said, I do like the team dynamic being split up right now. And I think if Roy or Helena came back to join with Oliver, it could make for some interesting storylines. So, yeah, I could see it happening. I think definitely it's going to happen with Roy, at least for 2 or 3 episodes. But we'll see if they bring the Hunters back. And his second question is, Tom King said that Matty will play the big role moving forward on his run. Do you have any theories as to how that could be? I'm all for it, since, as I said, I thought he was a very thought-provoking villain. Yeah, that's interesting that I didn't see Tom King say that, but it'd be interesting to see what he does with him, because I agree, it is, a new, unique, interesting villain that he's created, but it's going to be hard to use him in a different way than he did here now that Batman knows what he can do. And he's just a little kid, so it's going to be hard for him to outsmart Batman more than a few times. So we'll see what happens going forward, but it's what makes the character so interesting to see how he's going to be used and if he will be, a worthy opponent for Batman or a viable threat that can, keep Batman on his toes. So it's going to be interesting to see what King does with him. So look forward to see what happens with him in the future. And he goes, as of my writing this email, we're just 2 days away from Batman Gotham by Gaslight. It's my most anticipated DC animated movie ever. I already love the comic, and the fact that they're incorporating Selina into the story for the film just has my excitement through the roof. It really looks like it's going to have a lot of Bat-Cat moments in it, and I can't wait. I really need some of now after the end of Batman 39. I'm jealous of you guys, since you're in a future where the film is out as you're reading this, LOL. Anyway, I can't wait to watch it and discuss my thoughts with you on my next email. Well, don't be too jealous, Jordan, because I haven't seen it yet. Again, like all digital releases, I'm waiting for the Blu-ray, but thankfully this is only 2 weeks. So by the time we have our next episode, I'll have seen it and will definitely give my review on it. And I'm excited for it too. I think it looks really good. And it concludes saying, Gotham by Gaslight isn't the only huge thing coming out in January, though. Episode 4 of Batman the Enemy Within releases that day too. Needless to say, I'm going to be very busy that day. There's also a new issue of Injustice 2 and new episodes of The Flash and Black Lightning that night. Not only that, but Batman the Enemy Within is doing incredible stuff with the Bat-Cat relationship. So I'll be a second thing that day I can look forward to. Hopefully, give me my Bat-Cat fix in this stressful time when it comes to the comics. I finally was able to catch up on Batman the Enemy Within, and Batman the Telltale series as a whole continues to be one of the best Batman things I have ever experienced. I don't know if you guys are caught up yet, so I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm loving it. I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts when you do catch up, if you haven't already. Best, Jordan. Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't played any of the episodes besides the first ones. At this point now, I'm probably just going to wait for it to be completed, and then I'll go through all the remaining episodes to just plow through them all and experience them as one whole sitting. So definitely looking forward to it. Like, I know you said the good things about him, Jordan, and they seem to be getting good reviews still too. So definitely got to make sure I get back on that as well. And we'll definitely give you my review on that once they finish it. You're still behind on it too, Dane, same as me. Only played the first one.
Yeah, I only played the first one. I don't really have enough time on my hands, especially now that I have to watch Smallville.
Yeah.
So all 10
you gotta
seasons.
have priorities.
Yeah, there's like 200 episodes, Tim, or something.
Yeah, there's over 200. So
Yeah, so I have over 200 to watch.
And I'll be pleasantly surprised if you're able to watch all 200 of them, Dave.
But yeah, thank you, Jordan, for your email. We always enjoy reading them. It's gonna be a long Smallville rewatch or watch period.
Yeah, I was gonna say rewatch, maybe just on the first episode.
But yeah, thank you, Jordan. But now we can move on to our comic book reviews. For this episode, we have Batman number 39, Batman TMNT number 3, and Doomsday Clock number 3. Like we say at the beginning of every single episode, Tim, every single comic book review.
This This isn't the I love you part, right?
No. There's gonna be a lot of spoilers in this, so if you haven't read your books, you might want to come back to this part later. And a rating scale for this episode is going to be Smallville episodes that Dane still has to watch.
Which even if I give a comic book a 5, it's a lot more than that. You have to watch.
you have to give a comic book a rating of, I'd say, at least 180 for it to be a positive review.
Yeah, do like a 4 or something like that. You have to put it in Smallville episode terms, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, Batman number 39, going to what Jordan said about it. I know before I read it, there was some controversy regarding that ending with Batman and Wonder Woman. I didn't know it at the time, so when I was reading the issue, I was wondering what it could be. But before we get to that, I do agree it was a different, unique story with Batman and Wonder Woman teaming up. It does start in a funny way with Gordon seeing the bat symbol, wondering who the heck lit it up, and he goes to see Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman's telling him, I need to use it to get Batman's attention. And then Batman's already there to have them talk about what she needs him for. And she goes on to say how, the gentleman, this being is fighting off this hordes of monsters who, their numbers are they're based on the sins of man. So there's tons of them and they're never ending. So that's why the gentleman has to stay there for almost forever to keep fighting him off. And Batman and Wonder Woman actually helped him one time for a Justice League mission, just for a short period. But then they told him, they offered him a way back one day. They'll take his place in that realm for a little bit just so we can have a break. And Wonder Woman tells Batman he has now accepted the offer and, we need to go back there and fulfill our promise. So Batman, goes to the Batcave, tells Catwoman, like Jordan said, this was a great moment where he puts on that suit of armor. It's like a medieval knight armor. And the look on Catwoman's face as she's trying to cover up her smile, laughing at him. And Batman just, please don't. And she goes, you look ridiculous. And then we get to him with Wonder Woman, and she's kind of telling him the opposite. No, don't listen to that. You don't look ridiculous. And she goes, you look. And Batman goes, ridiculous. And Wonder Woman says, yeah, I guess you do, just a bit. So it's good dialogue there. So they get transported into that realm. They're fighting off all the monsters. Then the gentleman is back in, the normal plane, and he sees Catwoman. And the rest of the issue, Catwoman kind of shows him on the town, takes him to that Batman restaurant, while Batman and Wonder Woman, this shows what they're doing in their daily routine of fighting off these monsters, to a point where it's becoming like just a casual conversation they have where Catwoman or Wonder Woman is telling Batman, you must miss her. I know you love her. You're going to marry her, but now you're just stuck only here with me. And that she's telling Batman that he's too busy fighting this big monster. He's being captured. And then, they're still having the conversation thinking like it's nothing, and Wonder Woman easily frees them. So it's almost become just second nature and just no big deal when they're fighting these big monsters and they're having these casual conversations. And yeah, we get the reveal that Gentleman reveals that time passes slowly there. Everyone in that realm doesn't age. And so it says, as I'm trying to remember, he goes there, him and Catwoman are talking about him going to see his wife. And he says, I believe he saw her about a year ago. And Catwoman's wondering, you thought you've been there 10,000s of years. And that's where he explains, Batman and Wonder Woman, they've only been gone for a few hours, but it's revealed in the final pages that it's actually been 10 years in that realm. And that gets to the big controversy where, Bruce and Diana are talking to each other, how it's just them, it's just them and the monsters. And, it's just, they'll always have that forever. And, that's where Bruce and Diana lean into. Looks like it's going to kiss. And that's where the issue ends, on a cliffhanger. And yeah, I get how, in Jordan's case, especially him being the biggest Batcat shipper, how this can cause him to be really angry. I think if he was going to have them kiss, they would have done it in this page to really cause controversy. I think he left it open-ended like this, where they're just leaning in to have something happen at the beginning of the next issue where they're not actually going to kiss. And I hope that's the case too, where Jordan was saying it'd be a shame if they threw away all they built with the Batman-Catwoman relationship now that they got engaged, to have Batman cheat on her like this. It's just, it does seem out of character, and it lessens, the love that Batman and Catwoman have and what they built up. It would cheapen it, and then it would just, it just feels so unnecessary and almost pointless that they built all this up to have it be ruined here by Batman doing this with Wonder Woman. So I don't think it's going to happen, and nor should it happen. So it's just probably a little wrinkle they want to throw in there to get fans a little worried that maybe Batman and Catwoman is not going to last. So if it relationship does end up ending, I don't think it's going to be because of what Batman and Wonder Woman do here. It's probably going to be for something else and maybe a little bigger, because that'd be really lame. It's because Batman goes with Wonder Woman, and that ruins Batman's relationship with Catwoman. Batman's going to have more. I expect him to have more honor than that to keep his engagement and his promise to marry Catwoman. So to me, it's just a little red herring that they're probably throwing in there to get fans worried. So, but it was still a cool story. I enjoyed it. I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 5 episodes that Dane needs to catch up on Smallville, which is probably about, I don't know, in the 90, so maybe 90 episodes. That's what the 3.5 will
it's a lot.
turn around to be. Yes. Yeah, pretty much the rest of these comics, you're going to have a lot of episodes to catch up on. So Batman and TMNT #2, issue 3. The series that keeps on giving when it comes to fan service. It continues in this one. I love how it starts off with Damian. He has this determined look on his face that he's looking at an opponent saying, you're not going to beat me. I'm the best there is. Like, you don't know what you're up against. Then we see this big explosion happen in front of him. Then the next page, it just turns out he's playing a video game with Michelangelo, and he just lost at it. And then Raphael and Casey Jones are letting him have it. And then we get the classic Damian insults to the Turtles, and him and Raphael start going at it. And that leads to a moment, one of the big fan service moments here where Raphael and Damian have a fight, which was pretty awesome. Just seeing them go at it, it was pretty evenly matched. It's the two hotheads, the one hothead Turtle against the hothead Robin, and they both get good punches and kicks, and none of them really dominate the other. But of course, in their dialogue, both of them thinks they're the better fighter, and they had the upper hand and won the fight. And really, it was just a draw once Batman, Leonardo, and Splinter come back in to have them break up the fight. So it was a cool little moment. These two characters are kind of similar, kind of have chips on their shoulders, and they're going at it here. It was pretty cool to see. So then Batman, like I said, Leonardo and Splinter were scouting Bane in his hideout, looking for the right moment to attack, and Batman saying they'll hold off still. He's almost out of venom. We'll wait for his withdrawals to kick in, and then we can easily grab him and take him back to Gotham. But little do they know, as the last issue ended with Baxter Stockman coming under Bane's employ and having him synthesize more venom, and we get to reveal that he has succeeded and he has more venom ready to go, but he's going to use it, on the mutants Bebop and Rocksteady, which, they're already big mutants of a rhinoceros and warthog already, but seeing him induced with venom, when I saw they were hooked up to the machines to be connected to the venom, I was like, oh boy, I can't wait to see them even bigger and more huge and see what they look like with venom flowing through their veins. So that was pretty cool, but I haven't yet seen what they look like. That happens later in the issue. But before we get to that, as always, what makes these issues so fun and so good, that mixes in with the fun, is the good character moments we have. Another one with Donatello and April, as he's still feeling so unsure of himself and so guilty about bringing Bane to this world, and how he's wondering what his place is with his team and his family, as he doesn't know what to do and what anyone needs him for when he failed both physically and his strength, which is being the smart one. So just more good character moments there that balances off the fun action and fan service stuff that we get throughout the issues. So Batman and the Turtles with Robin and Splinter, they go to confront Bane to take him down, and they infiltrate the laboratory with Baxter Stockman. That's where we get the reveal where Bebop and Rocksteady come crashing through the room, even bigger and more bulked up with the venom flowing through their veins. And it was a pretty cool image in Splash Page with seeing them busting in, about to go against the Turtles and Batman. And even I like Damian's dialogue where he goes, aren't there any normal looking villains in this world? Like, they're all just mutants and mutant animals here. So that's going to be fun to see them take Bebop and Rocksteady on, all mutated even further with the venom. And then Baxter Stockman, who of course we know from the animated series, eventually gets mutated into a fly, and that happens in this issue where some of the mutagen mixed in with the venom crashes into him or spills on him, and he mutates into the fly that we all know and love, because that's what we're most familiar with, is that Turtles fans. We know Baxter as a fly. But even though he does, he makes for a formidable villain just as a scientist in the current IDW comics and some of the other animated series. So his characteristics just aren't based on him being a fly, but that's where he's most fun and unique. So the issue ends with, Bebop and Rocksteady coming in. They're full of venom. Bane makes his entrance, and then the foot soldiers, now all wearing, the familiar Bane luchador mask, hooked up with venom tanks and, to their backs as well. So Venom, Bane has a venom-induced army now to go against Batman and the Turtles, and which I can't wait to see play out. So this was another fun fan service issue with a lot of cool moments, except the fight between Damian and Raphael, seeing Bebop and Rocksteady induced with venom, just a lot of fun stuff. So I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5 episodes of Smallville that Dane's going to have to watch. So I'd put that at around the 100 mark. So 100 episodes for Dane on this comic. Now we get to the big one, Doomsday Clock number 3. And first off, I got to say, I was able to get one of the variant covers for this issue. It's the one where Batman in the Batcave just reading Rorschach's journal. And to me, there's just something very cool about that image of Batman reading, Walter Kovac's journal. That was such an important piece of the Watchmen story. I just love that cover. So this issue picks off, I love where it starts, where we're getting a recount of the comedian's, final night and fight with Ozymandias, as we get a recount of that happening, but, done this time with beautiful art by Gary Frank. And I love how we finally see, Adrian's face here, where in the original comic, we don't know who it is. It's a mystery, but we actually see his face now throwing the comedian out the window. And here's where things get pretty interesting right off the bat. We see the comedian falling down into the street, but it just turns pitch black and we only see the button. And then we see the panel, again, beautifully laid out by Gary Frank and drawn as well, where the black panel fades into an ocean and it turns into an ocean and we see a splash hit there and it's the comedian in the ocean. He comes up struggling to breathe and swims to the shore, which looks to be in Metropolis at Hobbs Bay. He's just out of breath and we just see the voice say, "Hello, Blake." And of course, the balloon dialogue's in blue, so we know it's Dr. Manhattan. And then we just see his feet as he stands right by the comedian, and the comedian just says, "Doc." So this is one of the big reveals right off the bat of how the comedian survived. I mean, that was the big cliffhanger of the last issue, that he survived or it was back to life. And this is one of the things I'm not sure. I'm kind of mixed on the one main thing so far in the story. And it's good that it hasn't answered everything just yet. And it creates that mystery of what exactly is going on. Because there's a question I have about it. I don't think it's, Dr. Manhattan just teleported the comedian before he fell into the DC universe. I think he still actually died. But how did, does the comedian just bring him back to life? And, the moment he opened his eyes, he was now in the ocean. Because the way the comic played out, like I said, it was almost like as he was falling, instead of hitting the ground, he hit the ocean. But I don't think that's the case because, and of course we know from the original Watchmen story, his body did hit the ground. I mean, it was covered with blood there. And, as Rorschach picks up the button, there was blood all over the ground. They had the funeral for him in the casket. So it just makes me wonder, at what point did Dr. Manhattan bring the comedian back? And I kind of hope it isn't just where he teleports him before he hits the ground and he never did die. I do want it to where he still died and, that set off the events that happened in Watchmen. And the thing that, kind of makes me believe that is going to be the case is the comedian's dialogue here where he says, "Death changes a man," thinking that he did die, but he was just brought back somehow. So that is the big mystery of still going on in the story, just what Dr. Manhattan has planned for the comedian, why he brought him back, and just how it was done. So I was a little, curious, wondering still what his purpose is going to be, and kind of didn't know how I felt about it at first. But now I'm kind of confident that Jeff Johns, he's not going to do anything that's going to hurt the original Watchmen comic to have it where the comedian never died. It's just going to be he was brought back somehow and just for a purpose that Dr. Manhattan has for him. We just don't know what it is yet. So I'm intrigued to find that out. But the course of his battle with, Ozymandias in this issue was really cool. Just kind of the opposite of their other battle. And again, there's more great artwork here in panel layout as the comedian is trying to shoot Ozymandias. And he just quickly dodges each blast in a quick, fluid way. That was, really got the sense of how it was drawn and laid out, how quick Ozymandias was able to dodge those bullets, which was really cool. And I liked how the comedian tried to knock him out the window at first, but to kind of, pay him back for what he did to him. But this is Lex Luthor's building. His glass isn't going to break so easily, so he wasn't able to do that. But Ozymandias is able to escape very injured. He just jumps out the window, and now he's really hurt. And the other big thrust of the story is Batman finally confronting the new Rorschach. And I just love their interaction here. At first, it's just simple banter with them talking about each other's masks, and like Batman saying, yours keeps changing. Like, who are you? And, Rorschach's starting to tell him a little bit of everything that's going on, and even hinting at that he's feeling guilty with working with Ozymandias here, like feeling like, oh, I should have killed him. I shouldn't be here. Like, I hate him. Why am I doing this? And so just wait, just read this journal. So he hands Batman Walter Kovac's journal, and Batman's going to read it. And over the course, Rorschach is telling him to hurry up. I just love how there's a page where the panels, there's no dialogue. You just see Rorschach looking over Batman's shoulder, being bored, kind of looking like, oh, come on, hurry up. Until he finally says, what page are you on? And Batman's all 4. And he's all, that's all? So Batman tells him, look, maybe you just go upstairs, clean up, take a rest, just as I read this book. So that's what he does. And this is where we finally get Rorschach unmasked. We finally see who's under there, but we still don't know who it is. It is a young African-American man who's maybe looks like about, between late 20s, early 30s. So he seems to be a little younger than the original Rorschach was. But then he had a funny conversation with Alfred as he's showing him his room, asking for more pancakes because the ones he ate when he first entered Wayne Manor was so good. So Alfred's going to whip him up some more pancakes, which was nice. But then there's a page where he's taking a shower, getting cleaned up. And I liked how he's really, not just cleaning himself because he's physically dirty, but there's this stench and filth in him that he has and feels because he's working with Ozymandias. And he goes, I need to wash this off. I need to get clean. Like, I shook hands with him, and after all that he did to the world with his plan, and he's just feeling so guilty and dirty about working with him, even though it's for a greater good. So I like that, little conflict and torment that this new Rorschach is having right here, and him working with Ozymandias. Then another part of the issue deals with Mime and Marionette, where they're going to get involved with a pretty big character sooner or later, because they enter this bar, and it's filled with criminals, gangsters, seedy people. And as soon as they see the Mime and Marionette enter, they say, hey, you're not allowed in here. You can't wear makeup. The boss doesn't like it. And he says, this is the Joker's turf. And that name catches Marionette's interest. Is all the Joker? Like, who's he? So a fight ensues, and a pretty entertaining fight sequence. As we found out in last issue, Mime likes to, mime his actions, like holding a gun and causing threats when he doesn't really have one. But it turns out, when it looks like he's not holding the gun and he's just miming it, he really does have a gun. Apparently, he has a special type of gun that's invisible, and we see it kind of appear as he's using it in this issue, and takes out a lot of these, criminals and gang members here in this bar. And here, him and Marionette just go to town and take all of them out. And then the next thing they want to do is go find the Joker. So I cannot wait to see how the Joker is going to play into the story and, mix it up with Marionette and Mime. It should be quite the encounter. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the other big point and a turning point in this issue, which, is going to harken back to the original Watchmen comic, was we're getting a story within the story, kind of how the original Watchmen had the Black Freighter comic. For this one, we're going to an old, detective movie. It's the fictional character is Nathaniel Dusk, private investigator, and the fictional actor playing him is Carver Coleman. And I believe Nathaniel Dusk, the character in this, fictional movie here, is the actual Golden Era DC comic character, kind of a lesser known one. But Jeff Johns is kind of bringing him back and using him for this story. So it takes place where in the senior citizen homes where they're changing the channel, watching the news, and then someone turns it to this movie, and we get this story that kind of like how the Black Freighter, I'm sure, is going to reflect certain elements that's going to go on the main story about Nathaniel Dusk trying to solve this double homicide and is about to investigate. And at the same time, you see what he's going through in his personal life about his ex-wife being murdered and his stepchildren being taken away or living with, their grandparents instead of him. So it's going to be interesting to see how his story unfolds and how it connects to, the main story going on. But I do like how Jeff Johns is kind of paying tribute to what Watchmen did with the Black Freighter and all that, and how Doomsday Clock's going to have its own version with this Nathaniel Dusk character in his movies. And at the back of the issue, it kind of gives the history of, the actor Carver Coleman, who plays Nathaniel Dusk, and how he landed the roles of that character in the movies that he played, but how he himself ended up being a murder victim. So I'm sure that will play into certain things of the story as well. And then also the issue ends on something I didn't see coming, as we go back to Batman and Rorschach, where Rorschach's having a nightmare, and we get a little more into who he is. And we see him behind the wheel of a car and behind a taxi right before, the alien squid emerges and just destroys everything. But he was able to survive that. I mean, this was a nightmare he was having. We see from a first person point of view of what he experienced when the squid attacked. And then he wakes up with Bruce Wayne right there, and he just tells him, you're safe. And he goes, you almost slept for 24 hours, and I've completed Kovac's journal. I know where Dr. Manhattan is. And of course, that makes his eyes light up, and Batman and Rorschach go to work. Batman tells him, he was able to trace his temporal, anomalies and found it in one place called Arkham Asylum. So that's where they're going to go. And so him and Rorschach enter Arkham. It's just cool seeing Batman and Rorschach working together. I mean, the only thing missing is that it's not, the original Walter Kovac Rorschach, but still, just visually seeing that classic Rorschach costume with Batman in his new costume, which everyone's making a big deal of now, where, Batman has a new costume. It has the, gold shield and the oval as the emblem for, his chest piece. And everyone's wondering what it can mean. But I'm kind of just thinking we'll find out, in the time, this takes place a year before the current DC books where they're at now. So I'm sure we'll get the story that explains Batman's new costume. But Batman and Rorschach enter Arkham Asylum, and Batman opens the door and just tells Rorschach he's in here. So Rorschach enters in and just is asking Dr. Manhattan, are you here? We need to talk. But then the door shuts on him, and he realizes Batman has locked him up in his own cell. And Batman just goes, I'm sorry, but you belong in here. And Rorschach just loses it, saying, I'm going to kill you for this. I'm going to cut out your eyes. And no, wait, I apologize. Please open the door. Let me out. And the book just ends with Batman walking down the halls of Arkham. And you hear Rorschach just yelling, let me out. So this took me by surprise. I really thought Batman and Rorschach were going to be, working together for a bit. And that's what we all wanted to see. But this is what, makes Jeff Johns a great writer, diverging from expectations and doing something different. This is the last thing I thought would happen with Batman throwing Rorschach in Arkham Asylum. And there's still debate on what Batman's motive is, like if he doesn't believe him or not and just think he's a nut. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, we know Batman has experience with, the Button storyline with him and the Flash investigating that. Now reading Rorschach's journal, I think in his own way, he's putting the pieces together and he's going to investigate it more on his own terms. I just don't think he trusts Rorschach yet, probably reading that journal. Doesn't think he should be working with, or he's not someone he should be working with at this time. So he's going to keep him locked up for his own good while Batman does his own investigation and try to find Dr. Manhattan. So I think that's the case, and not where Batman thinks he's just a nut job and he doesn't believe anything he says. I do think Batman believes him. He's just going to go about it his own way. So that was a great place to end it on. Jeff Johns is just killing it with Doomsday Clock. Every time I read it, I just can't wait to turn the page and see what's going to happen next. The merging of the two universes working, the characters from these two universes are working so good, and I just can't wait for more. The only bad thing now is that it was announced the book is going to be going bi-monthly, so it's going to have to wait even longer to get the next issues. And it's probably not going to end now until 2019. So it's going to be a long wait, but I think it's going to be worth it. I really think 3 issues in now, Jeff Johns is delivering something special. So I'm going to give Doomsday Clock number 4, or I should say number 3, 4.5 out of 5 Smallville episodes that Dane needs to rewatch. So this is in the high 100s, about 190 episodes, Dane. You're going to have to rewatch for this one. So good.
So yeah, I guess that's it for our podcast. Just go over to batmanuniverse.net, facebook.com/batmanuniverse, Twitter handles at batmanuniverse. The show's Twitter handles at Bat-Fans Podcast, Tim's Twitter handles at TimG311, and my Twitter handles at DaneSaysBanana. You can email the show at batfanswithoutpants@gmail.com, and you can rate and review us on iTunes. So with that, like we say at the end of every single episode, Tim,
we love each and every one of you with all of our bad hearts.
Yeah, with all of our bad hearts. So with that, see you guys next time.
See you next time, everybody.